Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us in the Qur'an and in the Sunnah through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through the Sahaba and through those who follow them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned so many ayat in which we can find a parallel to our situation in today's world. Some people might think that the Qur'an is old and therefore irrelevant, or Islam is a thing of the 7th century and therefore totally irrelevant today. But the Qur'an is Allah's word, eternal word. Allah spoke it eternally and it exists eternally. It will be there with us in Jannah also. So it's for all times, all people, all places, and for us to inshallah find ibrah and nasiha, lessons and examples from the Qur'an. The Qur'an coins examples all the time so that human beings may ponder and reflect and understand through the example what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. One of those several examples from the Qur'an is an example at the end of Surah Al-Nahl. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا قَرْيَةً كَانَتْ آمِنَةً مُطْمَئِنَّةً يَأْتِيهَا رِزْقُهَا رَغَدًا مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ فَكَفَرَتْ بِأَنْعُمِ اللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala coins the example of a city, of a dwelling, whose rizq and whose providence comes from all quarters. يأتيها رزقها من كل مكان. You have a community, a society, a civilization, a nation that has provisions galore, food from everywhere, and money like crazy. But what happens? فَكَفَرَتْ بِأَنْعُمِ اللَّهِ. This city and these people who live in the city, they reject the ni'mah of Allah. They deny that rizq is from Allah. They don't show gratitude, or they do things that undermine the fadl of Allah on them, whichever way you want to say it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, فَأَذَاقَهُ اللَّهُ لِبَاسَ الْجُوعِ وَالْخَوْفِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then makes them taste hunger and fear. Provisions from everywhere. يَأْتِيهَا رُزْقُهَا مِنْ كُلِّ مَكَانٍ. The rizq comes from everywhere. It's available. It's right in front of you. But you deny Allah's ni'mah. You reject Allah's ni'mah. You don't show gratitude. Or there's something wrong in you, either as individuals or as a community. Then what does Allah do? فَأَذَاقَهُ اللَّهُ. Allah makes them taste لِبَاسَ الْجُوعِ وَالْخَوْفِ. The garment and the garb of hunger and fear. بِمَا كَانُوا يَصْنَعُونَ. Because of what they do. This is an example Allah gives. Now, tell me what's happening in the country today. 800,000 federal employees are going through this. Rizq is everywhere. Food is everywhere. Money is filthy, is available. But Allah, through this example, is telling us that despite you having the facility and the ability to feed people, you won't be able to feed your own people because the government's in the shutdown. Now you see how relevant the Qur'an is? This is an example Allah gives to those people, not just those in power, but those who deny Allah's ni'mah, and those who reject Allah's ni'mah, and those who don't believe Allah is the Razzaq and the Raziq, and those unfortunate people who are suffering today, who live paycheck to paycheck in this country. 800,000 people are on the brink of starvation. This is a reality. Allah's warning us as He's warning them, that don't think that Allah can't test you just because you have plenty, just because you have a job, security, money, savings, investments, retirement plans. Look at these poor people. They're employed by the richest nation on the planet, but they're lining up for food. An example. When you study the Qur'an with this intention that you want to apply it in your life, you will find these ayat obvious, blatantly exposing reality right in front of you. So Allah is making them taste this. Now, we empathize with those people who are furloughed. We empathize with those people who don't have any food, because we should be sensitive to the needs of other human beings. It could happen to us. Allah save us, protect us all. And there are some members in our community here in Chicago, Muslims, who are furloughed, and they're experiencing the same grief and stress and distress that everybody else is. So when something happens, it doesn't impact the non-Muslim exclusively. That's not how Allah works in this world. وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. The Qur'an warns us as Muslims that beware of a test that will not inflict those who are unjust exclusively, only. Because when the fitna and the test comes, it impacts everybody, Muslim and non-Muslim. So what should we do? Obviously make dua that the government opens up. But along with that, we must find ways to identify our Muslim brethren who are furloughed, offer them assistance, offer them food, offer them something, so that they know they're not in it alone, they're not marooned on this island. And also offer non-Muslims food. Be part of that movement which is going out of its way to help other human beings in this time of their suffering, because it's a national crisis, and if we have a social security number, we are part of this nation. Don't assume for a moment you're not American. You are. You live here, you breathe here, you eat here, you sleep here, you do everything here, you're American. So we should feel the pain and the suffering of everybody who is impacted by this trial, by this fitna, by this musibah. And listen to what the Qur'an is saying. Read the Qur'an. You will find guidance. you will find guidance. The Qur'an gives us guidance. What is the guidance? فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ الَّذِي أَطْعَمَهُم مِّن جُوعٍ وَآمَنَهُم مِّن خَوْفٍ. The Qur'an gives a solution. They should worship the Lord of this house, meaning the Kaaba, the one who feeds them out of hunger and the one who gives them security from fear. This is the solution. That there is dua, and there is ibadah, and there is dhikr, and there is recitation of the Qur'an, and then there is social services that Muslims collectively should provide for each other so that Allah's promise is met. Allah is not going to send down angels from the heavens to distribute food. That's not how He works. He works through us. He works through Muslims. That Muslims must supply the needs for other people as being representatives of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in this example that the Qur'an coins, that there is a city whose food comes from everywhere, and the dwellers of the city, they deny and they reject Allah's ni'mah, and they don't believe in Allah, or they do things that undermines the laws of Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes them taste hunger and fear because of what they do. بِمَا كَانُوا يَصْنَعُونَ, because of what they do. So at a time when government's doing diddly squat, Muslims should step up to the plate and do their share of community service, along with the dua for their hidayah and for their guidance, along with Islam. They must do this also, so that we are part of this nation, regardless of our feelings, affiliations, likes and dislikes about whatever happens in the country. We are part of it. This is the way forward for Muslims here in this country and every other country on the planet, that we must participate in not only the narrative but also in the fulfillment of Allah's wish, that is to feed people and to give people security. This is the Rabb of the Kaaba. This is the Lord of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is instructing us to do this, not just be simply sometimes indifferent. We'll sit there in front of the TV or the internet, and then we'll be the philosopher of politics, right? We'll discuss, we'll philosophize, we'll condemn. But the Qur'an doesn't want you to condemn without action. You must provide a solution to the problem if it's within your hands, and I believe it is within our hands to do this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept us and guide us all. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen.